it's probably one of the best feelings out there to be on that track, to know that you have thousands of pair of eyes watching you. And for that moment in time, the world is watching. So what are you going to do?
Hello and welcome to the Beautiful Work Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Krikorian. Each episode, we feature a special guest from all walks of life, and we ask them to explore the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the triumphs and the trials of their chosen field. Writers, musicians, coaches, business owners, athletes, and everything in between. We peel back the curtain to hear their stories, to walk their paths, to find out how they breathe life into their beautiful work. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast. We have a fantastic guest today in Lex Gillette, who we will get to in just 1 second. A couple of real brief announcements. If you have not already, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Stitcher, and sign up for our newsletter on dankrikorian.com to get all the latest on the podcast and music as well. Speaking of music, I do have a brand new record out, which is my 6th record with my full band, the DKB. It's a live record, 22 tracks recorded last summer from our performances at the Orange County Fair, and you can find that on Apple as well as on the website. Okay, on to the show. Lex Gillette is the best totally blind long and triple jumper in the history of the U.S. Paralympic movement. He's a current world record holder in the long jump, 4-time Paralympic medalist, 3-time long jump world champ, and 18-time national champion. And he's the only totally blind athlete to ever eclipse the 22-foot barrier in the long jump. Outside of his work as an athlete, Lex is also a motivational speaker and an author and an all-around great guy, and we were so excited to have him on the show. So, without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Lex Gillette. This will be a fun conversation because when I was in high school, I was actually a long jumper and a triple jumper. So I'm interested in your story so much for so many different angles. You're jumping about 1.5 feet farther than my longest jump in high school. So you've definitely got me by a long shot. But we're going to get into what you do as an athlete and as a fully blind Paralympic athlete and whatnot. But I want to start with music, because I know that music is something that you do as well. You write your own stuff. You've talked about potentially creating an album or an EP after you're done with your athletic career. And I want to start by reading you back a lyric of one of your songs that you've put out there, and just maybe get your thoughts on that lyric, and we can go from there. So the lyric is, "If you want to see for yourself, look inside your mind, and you will be able to stand the test of time." What did that lyric mean to you when you wrote it?
At that time, when I wrote that lyric, I want to say it was a year that my dad was killed. My dad was killed in a car accident. And
Wow.
And I was up. Was that yeah, it had to have been the same year. And when things happen to us in life, like the lyrics flow, right? They just come to us. And so with all of the emotion and things that were going on in my head, our ability to, mentally reach a point where it's like we're back balanced again, or we're back centered, is that space where you're able to to truly see.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when we're not balanced and when we're not centered, we're in a space where you're kind of like you're out of control. And when we're out of control, we're not able to really be our best self. And so if you want to see for yourself, look inside your mind. That's where the luxury lies. Getting back to that space of like clarity and being able to truly visualize what's possible.
Yeah, it's a great lyric. It's from a song that you posted maybe a couple months ago online as a response to one of the questions that some of your fans would ask you and you responded back to. And so is that a completed song that will be released eventually?
Yeah. I know you said that, we're doing the EP or the album after my career. And I actually accelerated that a little bit.
Oh, good.
And once they really truly let the city open again, I'm gonna go to the studio in San Diego and just start mashing this stuff out, man.
That's good. Well, it's a great sound that you have. I know you just released like a little clip, at least from on your website, and so maybe your musical influences a little bit. Where did you come from a musical background?
Definitely a lot of kind of like that R&B gospel type
Uh-huh.
of like bluesy type sound. I'm a huge Jamie Foxx fan. I like John Legend. I like Stevie Wonder. I like so many different artists out there who are wonderful singers and
Yeah.
pianists. And yeah, music is life.
Yeah.
It's a medicine.
Now, I'm interested in the connection. I'm always interested in the connection between music and sport because in my own personal life, it's something I do. I go back and forth between traveling and touring with music and then jumping back in and being a basketball coach. And sometimes people will look at it and say, wow, it looks like they're just so different, two completely separate things. And I've always thought that they're much closer than people realize. How about you? How do you see your connection with sport and with music?
I think that, well, first and foremost, two of the just amazing languages of the earth, right? It doesn't matter where you come from, your background, your race, and like none of that stuff matters when music and sport is in the picture. Everyone, it's almost like we understand it.
Yeah.
We all are able to vibe and speak that same language. And so I think between the two of them, there's rhythm, there's imagination, there's the ability to reimagine, there's the ability to let your mind wander, and however far that you feel that you can go mentally is how far you can go musically and athletically.
How about learning the piano and for someone like yourself that is blind, how did that compare to learning how to be an athlete? Was it different? Was it easier? Was it better? How was that?
Well, for starters, I'm definitely a much better athlete than I am a piano player. But I think that just there's been many of times where I just sit there for hours and hours and hours upon hours at the piano and listening to the notes and the sounds, and it's like a door is opening to this space where creativity rules.
Uh-huh.
And if you have the patience and the imagination to really let it roll and let it flow, I think that you get to this space where you're creating and you're communicating and pouring out yourself in a way that you can't do with anything else. And I don't know. I just, man, I probably didn't even answer your question right now.
No, it's great.
I'm just so lost right now with just thinking about when I'm sitting there and I'm just listening.
For sure.
And yeah,
Well, um, it's an amazing thing being both someone that can create music and also enjoy and listen to it. And I go back and forth between, sometimes it's nice just to put on a record or, put on Spotify, I guess what people do more these days, and just listen and get lost. And then it's a little different mindset when you're trying to sit down and create
you're right.
music. And both, I love doing both, but like you mentioned, kind of unlocking that creativity. I've always found that music offers a nice balance to, when you're training for a sport or,
Mhm.
you're in the middle of a season and you're able to just sit and kind of get away from things and collect your thoughts.
Exactly. Exactly. It's certainly it's undefeated when it comes to decompressing and
That's right.
getting away from training and competition. Like maybe a week or so ago. We've kind of been in our shelter in place
Uh-huh.
order, and I just had a number of instrumentals, and I literally was just pumping out stuff, and then like a few days later, it's like you know what? I'm just it's not flowing right now. And so in that space, I'm just, either kind of in silence and
Hmm.
listening to my own thoughts and or just throwing on, to your point, throwing on Apple Music or something and listening to the creative genius of other people.
Yes. It's so nice to be able to have that outlet, and the connection between the two, like I always talk about, is huge. So we'll look forward to an EP
Yeah.
or an album of some sort sooner than later. I'm excited to hear about
Oh,
that.
oh yeah. Yes.
Well, good. Well, let's pivot a little bit, and if you could, maybe you could take us back. And I heard a story that you talked about on another podcast about when you were 10 years old and the first time that you took off and performed a long jump for the school that you were at the time, and you had just recently lost your sight. Do you remember that moment, back in grade school when you took that first long jump after you had lost your sight, what that was like and the moments leading up to that?
Yeah. So I think that what you're referring to is after a couple years after I lost my sight, in front of our house was a this ledge, 3 foot high ledge. Below is a patch of grass, pretty a nice spacious grassy area. And um, prior to me losing my sight, I used to run and jump off of that ledge and put my arms out and think
Uh-huh.
that I'm flying like a bird and things like that. And so after I had lost my sight, yeah, I had steered clear of that ledge for a while, but eventually I went back out there and I began to jump off of that ledge and spread my arms again and imagine that I could fly. And of course, it took a lot of certainly took a lot of courage and something within me, trusting myself and trusting that the ground was going to be there when my feet hit it.
Yeah,
But I think that a lot of it was a sense of freedom and a sense of ability, being able to get out there and just to do something.
sure.
And it was super positive. It was super invigorating, energizing. It lifted me up, and it was breaking some of those limitations that probably were previously in my head.
Now you had lost your sight when you were 8 years old,
Yep.
correct? When did you start to trust your own body and being able to move and be an athlete? When did you start to feel like, okay, I trust how this is going to be going forward, and then turn that into these goals that you obviously have accomplished later in your life, where you're getting ready to go to your fifth Paralympics in Japan next year. When did that switch turn on?
Um, you know what? I think that it really started when my mom tells this story a lot about when she was sitting in our living room. one evening, and she was like meditating or praying or something. And I run up to her and I said, "Mom, I need to learn how to read dots." And that was a weight that was lifted off of her shoulders, because she said, now my son gets it and he understands that moving forward, this is going to be our reality. He is blind, but we're going to figure out a way to make it happen. And I don't know, kids are pretty remarkable, right? And they are able to communicate and be resilient and do things that you marvel at it. And so I think at that time some sort of switch flipped on, that I think that when I was going through the operations, I had 10 operations when I was 8 years old. And so those first few ones, you're optimistic and you're thinking that, okay, everything is it's gonna work. You're gonna be able to see again. Doctors are going to salvage your sight. But once you get toward the seventh, eighth, ninth time, that optimism, it starts to die out. And so I think that somewhere along that time, I was probably already consciously and subconsciously, I would say, coming to the realization that, you know what, this might not work. The doctors may not have an answer for salvaging your sight. And after that 10th operation, it was Lex, you're not going to be able to see again. So I'm going home. I'm doing my normal routine, going to sleep at night, waking up the next morning, see a little less than what I did the day before, until one day I woke up and I couldn't make out much of anything. And it was certainly a challenging time.
Yeah.
But I can't put a specific number of how many months or years that it took for me to run up and tell my mom that. But once I did tell her that, hey, Mom, I need to learn how to read dots. I need to learn how to read Braille. From there, it was, all right, let's figure out all of the programs, resources, tools, and accessible options for him so that he can be successful in life.
Now, you've talked about your mom being someone that, has obviously been one of your biggest supporters. Can you talk about her a little bit and about her and your development as both a person and as an athlete before and after you lost your sight?
Yeah. My mom, she's been a huge pillar in my life, a very strong influence. And I'm single parent. And, just to set the scene, I think that, with all of the things that's going on in the world currently, I think this kind of reverberates really loudly. But growing up in North Carolina, my mom, she's Black, she's a female, and my mom is a person with a disability. So she checks 3 boxes of individuals that in a lot of ways face some sort of, overwhelming circumstances.
Yeah.
And not at no point did I, look at her and get anything less than like the best. Like she was a really good example. She went to work and she came home and provided food and love and care. And all of the Christmases that I can remember waking up, I had everything that I could ever ask for. Being involved in different community programs and having the best technology and being connected with the best professionals academically and from a sports standpoint. And if she didn't have the answers, she found someone who did. And her relentless effort for, excellence not only was placed upon me, but it was placed upon the educators and other individuals, counselors, and everyone, because her thing was, look, this is the environment that I set for my son here at home. And when he leaves our home and he's in the world, then I expect for you guys to hold him just as accountable as I am, because at some point he's going to enter the world,
Yeah.
and no one's going to care that he's blind. No one, like, no, he needs to be able to go out here and be independent, survive on his own, and contribute to society like the next person. And so that was the example that I saw on a daily basis, and it just let me know that, look, you got to get it going. No excuses. Let's make it happen.
Has your mom been able to travel and be with you at the Paralympic Games?
Yeah, she's been to 3 out of the 4.
Okay.
So yeah, so she's batting 750 right now. That's
Okay.
really good.
That is good. That's
Yeah.
not bad at all. Is she planning on Japan? Is that something that's in the works?
Yep. Yeah. We're gonna figure out how to make that happen. So for sure.
I'm interested in the Paralympic Games from like a social aspect of, meeting other athletes and the village and kind of the community feel. Can you speak to that a little bit? I know we'll get to the competition stuff, which you thrive in, but how about off of the court, off of the field? What's that like?
It's awesome. I think within just Team USA as a whole, you get there and you have the other track and field athletes, but you have the swimmers, the cyclists, the goalball athletes, the sitting volleyball athletes. You have wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, and so many different sports, so many people from different areas of the country. And the learning involved is huge. The camaraderie that develops is fantastic. And these are people who you build friendships with and relationships with that will last forever. And even outside of that, being able to go and to cheer on your teammates in their venues, to go to the pool, to go to the gymnasium. I get a kick out of that. I love it a lot because there are some talented athletes within the Paralympic space and just overall. They're able to do some amazing things. And so to witness those great moments is pretty phenomenal. And then when you look at it from just the globe as a whole, you have athletes from different countries who are in different cultures, and to have the opportunity to go into a cafeteria and make friends with someone from South Africa or from Australia or from China or whatever it is, to sit down at that table and to communicate. Sometimes it's a little choppy, but we figure out a way to mesh and make it happen and learn from each other, even if you have to pull out Google Translate. So just to be there amongst athletes who, some of them are just happy to be there. Some of them are focused on winning gold medals. It just all depends on, who that athlete is. But
Sure.
The experience is being inside of that village, going into the cafeteria, going into the rec rooms. And they've even had, in London, we had a studio in the village.
Oh, great.
And there's been a number of competitions where we've gone and they've had, live music. One that off the top of my head, we were in Toronto for the Pan American Games in 2015. And they had this room that had a piano and a drum set and a couple other instruments. And so me and a few of my buddies went in there. We would jam out.
That's great.
So yeah, I mean, it's there's so much that goes on in the village. That's definitely it's a highlight for sure.
Yeah, I can just see and hear your voice and face light up when you start talking about that village. Right now we're recording this in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Paralympic Games were supposed to be this summer. They've been pushed back. What do you think that the Paralympic Games will mean to people worldwide when we're able to get back together. The importance of it on a global scale once this pandemic is hopefully behind us.
It'll be the ultimate testament to, no matter the circumstances, we will rise. No matter, it doesn't matter. We're going to rise.
Now let's talk about actually being on the track and the competition part of it. You are a highly decorated long jumper. I believe, do you hold the world record currently right now?
Yes.
And that's what, I'll let you say it so I don't miss.
Yeah, it's 22 feet 1 inch, or 6.73 meters.
Okay. And that is a heck of a jump, to say the least. I was a decent long jumper in high school, but I was just in the low 20s. And so you've got me by a full 2 feet. So I can't imagine going 2 feet farther. I put everything I ever could into getting over 20
That's
feet.
Funny.
But can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be on the track at one of these Paralympic Games, or any of these games where there's high stakes and there's pressure, and what that feels like as you're getting ready to jump, and what that, I know you're working with a coach who's helping you as you sprint down the runway and jump. Can you go through that process a little bit?
Yeah, it is. You show up to the warm-up track, and you're getting ready, and eventually they have this call tent area, and the call tent is where you go in and you get your shoes checked, and they're making sure that your uniform is matching and all of that stuff. So you're in there, you're amongst your competitors. People are in there screaming and possibly trying to intimidate you, et cetera, et cetera. And then they take us to another area, which is the last stop before we actually walk into the stadium. And so at this portion, there's a little bit of track. So you're able to do some drills, you're able to do some sprints and things like that. And then finally they line us up and they lead us out into the stadium. And for me, not being able to see, you reach this point where it's like the door to this portal. And once you walk through, it just opens up. Stadium is huge. Electricity is going. It's hot in there. There's so many bodies in there. Sometimes you'll hear the crowd clapping as you walk out, and they're admiring the athletes. And eventually, we're led to the long jump area, and there, that's where we get our shoes on, and in our competitions, they always keep the guide and the athlete separate, so we can't sit together. And just for the record, your guide is the person who stands at the takeoff board or by the long jump pit, wherever you prefer, and they're giving you that auditory signal. So some people just yell, some people will clap and yell, some people will just clap. And for the athlete who's blind, that gives you a sense of where you need to run and jump from, the direction that you need to run, and you remember how many strides you take, you run, and at the appropriate stride, you jump and land in the sand. But it's probably one of the best feelings out there to be on that track, to know that you have thousands of pair of eyes watching you. And there's certainly pressure that comes along with it, but nothing that, well, at least when I speak for myself, nothing that is unbearable or it's almost like excitement, if you will, overwhelming excitement, because it's another opportunity to compete. It's another opportunity to put on display what you've been working on for 4 years. And for that moment in time, the world is watching you. So what are you going to do?
Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, he who is not every day conquering some fear has not learned the secret of life. Lex Gillette recently released a book titled Fly, an inspirational account about his path to becoming one of the world's greatest blind athletes, and specifically in a sport that requires him to hurl his body through the air for record-setting distances without being able to see the ground beneath. Lex's athletic achievements are remarkable and well documented, but it's that special mixture of personal resilience, grit, and willingness to literally run towards fear and uncertainty that drew the most inspiration for me. And it's Lex's ever-present tinge of optimism that comes through when he speaks about life, goals, and the future. And right now, that tinge is refreshing when every news story or post feels laced with the opposite. Yet, as Lex states in many of his motivational speeches, that no matter the situation, we have the choice to move forward one step at a time through fear and the unknown, to make the best of our situations. And as Alphonse Carr once said, we can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorns have roses. You set the world record, 22 feet 1 inch. When you took that jump and you landed, did you know? Like, did you have a feeling that you had set the record, or were you not sure? Was it going to be close?
So the first time I broke it, I didn't, and that was the weirdest day because I overslept. I didn't hear my alarm. I overslept. Arrived to the stadium late and had to piece together a makeshift warm up, and eventually got to the long jump runway, and yeah, it happened. I just remember being on the runway and I was running, but it was almost like I was zoned out, if you will. Like I knew I was moving. I felt like I was moving fast, but not crazy fast.
Okay. And
everything seemed like it was happening super slowly from a mental standpoint. It just seemed like it was bam, bam, bam. It just felt very, I was in this space of, there's a word that I want to use and it's not coming to my mind right now, but just a space of just calm.
Everything slows down, calm. Yeah, it's like, it sounds like you're almost describing when a basketball player's in the zone and everything slows down and they're just making shot after shot. I'm thinking of Steph Curry or something.
Yeah, like literally it was happening effortlessly. And I remember when I landed in the sand, I didn't think that it was a world record jump. I was just like, and they ended up, they measured it and it was the world record. And so I was like, man, that is absolutely insane. And I can count on, there was another time in 2015 when I tied that record again. And in that competition, I remember it was the same thing. But this time I was much more prepared. I didn't oversleep. I arrived to the stadium with enough time to do what I needed to do. And every single attempt that I had on the long jump runway, I was zoned in. Like I just couldn't be stopped.
It's interesting how different those two experiences are, though. One where you're feeling super prepared, you're not sleeping in, and with the other one, though, you kind of sleep in, but you still, set the record. Just as far as a performance aspect, it's interesting, the two different ends of it. So going into the next Paralympic Games in Japan, you have the world record right now. Is that mark? Are you going to have to beat that mark? Do you think to get the gold in Japan, or what's the mark looking like to hopefully take home the gold?
It may not have to be that far, but I know just in terms of myself and what I aspire to do in the sport, I would love for it to be a world record mark
Uh-huh.
because I feel like that would totally solidify, solidify a gold medal. Um, and to be able to, to be able to do that, one of the things I'm chasing right now is the 7 meter barrier, and that's that would be a huge feat. That's almost, I mean, I've jumped over 22 feet, and 7 meters would be jumping over 23 feet.
Wow.
So definitely going to be putting in some major work, and to be able to have the possibility of putting that performance together in Tokyo for everyone to see on that global stage.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'll be crazy.
Will be.
Yeah.
Well, look forward to that. Have there been any other athletes that you've met in your time as being a professional athlete yourself, that starstruck's not the right word, but that you've been like, wow, this is really cool. I'm getting a chance to meet this person. Is there anybody sticks out?
Most recently, I met him before, but most recently, Michael Phelps and I were in Vegas together for a sponsor event, and it's always cool to be amongst. I mean, he's the GOAT,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So,
right.
so I mean, it was definitely a cool experience to hang out with him and the other athletes as well. But there's definitely been. I went to Vegas again. That sounds funny. I meet a lot of famous people in Vegas, but I went to Vegas and went to a Stevie Wonder concert. And after the concert, I met Stevie Wonder,
That's cool.
and that was really dope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I love Stevie Wonder myself, but the bass player and keyboardist in my band are just gigantic Stevie Wonder fans. We often kind of warm up on stage, sound check to Superstitious,
Oh yeah.
and they just love playing it. So I think they would not be able to stand up straight if they got a chance to meet him.
That was a wonderful concert. People like that where their music just
Oh,
just in no end, right?
yeah.
Like I just feel like the concert people probably are like, look, you got 3 hours and just do whatever you want to do. And it was literally just him just banging out music.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Oh, he's one of the absolute greats.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Shifting gears a little bit, another part of your life, and you have so many facets of it. You have, your athletic, professional life. We talked about music already earlier on, but then you also are someone that's a public speaker, a motivational speaker. Recently released a book, Fly, and so I want to talk about that part of your life a little bit, and when that became more of a reality for you, when you started to pursue more of the motivational speaking and writing aspects of your career, and what you hope to share with those things.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that from a writing standpoint, I was writing when I was a young kid, and I used to write stories in Braille all of the time, and I'm kicking myself because I had threw a lot of that stuff away when I was growing up. But it would have been so nice to look back on some of those things. I have a couple items, but not everything. And from a writing standpoint, I felt like that was an opportunity for me to communicate. I felt like as I was growing up that I had a voice and I would speak, but I felt like it would just get lost in the sauce. I felt like people didn't really listen to what I had to say, and outside of my mom and
Yeah.
educators and close friends. And so writing became something where I was like, look, this is where I can truly put down my thoughts and feelings, and um, people will see and they'll listen. And
Yeah.
that actually goes into a lot of going back to the music as well, being able to speak to the feelings and emotions in a way that everyone loves music. Like literally everyone loves music.
Yep.
So if I can put it in the music, then someone's going to listen to me. And so as a speaker, when I had first gotten into speaking, I was uncomfortable because I felt like, are people looking at me funny? Do people think that my eyes look weird? Or like,
Hmm.
so many insecurities. And I think at that particular time, I just wasn't really embracing myself. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. And what helped me flip the switch was that at the end of the day, no matter what I get up there on stage and do, I think that um, Lex, is it's not about you. It's about everyone inside of that room, inside of that stadium, wherever I am. And it's about saying something that will positively impact their life.
Yeah.
And if I can walk off stage knowing that at least one person in the room could, walk away and have something that they could apply to their own life, so that they could write their song or participate in their sport or
Hmm.
be a CEO in whatever arena of life they want to. If that happens, then my job is done. Um, and and speaking really got into it more when I started working with sponsors, and some of the obligatory items revolved around doing speeches or doing employee events and things like that. And so I really got comfortable, and again just saw that it was a platform that I could use to share with the world and help influence people in a way that they wouldn't be influenced by anyone else.
Absolutely. Now you've you've done TED Talks. You've spoken to large corporations, like you just mentioned, and you have rave reviews on your site from some of these speaking events, and people really enjoying what you have to say. What do you think resonates with people so much and is so motivational to people about your story? What do you think they take from it and apply to themselves?
I think, well, the elephant in the room is like, oh my gosh, this guy's blind and he's able to jump and he's able to walk up stairwells and eat his food by himself. And like, but
Uh-huh.
but I think that more than anything, I don't know if they. I would hope that they totally get this, but no matter how many jumps I take, no matter how many medals that I win or records that I break, all of that success happened from the skills and lessons that I learned growing up. And I point that out because I get it. When I tell stories of being inside of the stadium and being on the podium and winning medals and things like that, people may not relate to that because they just don't see themselves as an athlete. And I get that. But what we all can relate to is the emotions and the feelings that are associated with those types of achievements. You know what it feels like to feel proud about achieving something that's just super amazing. You know what it's like to feel that sadness when you fail and
Hmm.
things don't go your way. You know what it feels like to be frustrated when life just doesn't happen the way you feel like it should be happening. And all of those things are a part of the journey. You feel those emotions in whatever area of life that you're currently in. And all of the lessons that I learned early on about being resilient and having courage and having this never give up attitude, they all sound like super cliche. Oh man, I've heard that before. But the reality is, the reason you hear them so much is because they work. And the
Sure.
only thing that you have to do is literally do something. Like, literally do something. Nothing happens when you're sitting on the sideline and you're not giving it a shot and you're not taking risks, you're not trying anything. Nothing happens at all. But once you take a step forward, once you get the ball rolling a little bit, then you start to see some progress, and you start to see the possibilities, and all of those things are it's the same across the board. And where we all separate is how we use those things to get to whatever gold medal that we're trying to achieve.
Very well said. And I completely agree with you on the relatability of all of those things. I think as I've listened to you talk today, as I've researched and gotten ready for our interview. One of the things that I resonate with is, we all grapple with fear. We all grapple with, trying to push through these areas of our life where we're maybe afraid to take that next step, or something is scary, and you have to, like you've mentioned, show courage and resilience in pushing through those things. And I think that's one of the things about your story that resonates with me, is in all these different steps of your life, you've, kind of pushed through to that next level, and have been very successful on all these different fronts. Is there something, or are there things now though that you still find yourself, having to, you come up with some resistance and you have to push through? Maybe it's, trying to jump a little bit farther, or speak to more people, or reach more people. Are there things that still, I don't know if scary you is the right word, but challenges that you look forward to that you're to this day kind of trying to push towards?
I would say one of them that comes to mind is I do box jumps,
Okay.
and each time that I get onto a certain height, it could be 42 inches, and I'm knocking that out, bam, 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 and then we move it up to the next training block. We'll move it up to 45 inches, and so not being able to see the box, but I'm touching it.
Yeah.
Sometimes in my head, I'm like, that's high. and
That is high.
so I'm with my weight room instructor, my strength and conditioning coach, and he's just like, yeah, man, you can do it. And it'll literally take me a couple minutes before I actually put my arms back and get ready to get up there. And it's frightening, but again, circling back to a couple minutes ago, you just gotta do it. And my strength and conditioning coach, he stands there to the side of the box, so if anything happens, he can help me. And that's, if I get up there and fall backwards, I don't know, so many things can happen.
Sure.
But I know I just put it to the back of my head and say, look, I'm gonna get on the top of this box. And it's almost like the fear of not getting up there successfully puts me in this frame of mind where it's like, all right, I need to put absolutely just everything into this jump so I can clear it.
What excites you most about your future? What are you looking forward to the most the next coming years?
I think what really excites me is the fact that I could leave something here on earth that wasn't here when I was born. And that's really powerful for me, because if I can walk through a door that someone else, may not have to walk through, or if I can cross a river or climb a mountain that someone behind me doesn't have to tackle, then it's not to say that, of course you're doing something for them. I think I'm speaking more to like obstacles and some sort of struggle. But if I can, remove those things so that they can have a greater experience, that's exciting. Because then, of course, in order to excel in life, you're going to face some obstacles. So they're going to face something, but to see that they could start on the foundation that myself or someone else built, and to make it stronger and to escalate even higher in life, it'll just speak to like what's possible. And if they're able to escalate even higher, then the person behind them will see that, and they can imagine and reimagine and be able to go even higher. And it'll just be cool to sit back and see that progress.
What's one of the best investments that you've made in your career?
That's a tough question.
Take your time. It's all good.
Well, there's so many places to take that.
This is a good question for you.
It is. No one has ever asked me this question before. I am going to say I bought a Yamaha Motif workstation keyboard when I was 21 years old, I think. And it's not when I say it's not accessible, I mean that in the sense of my computer has a screen reader on it, and it reads the elements of the screen. So it's not accessible in the sense of if I press a button, it's not going to read to me, okay, this is the pattern function, this is track 16, these are the pianos, etc. But where it is accessible is that I remember where the buttons are, and I found a resource online where there are a number of blind and visually impaired people who would post what they know about how to use the keyboard and how many times to press the key to get to this function or to get to that function. And playing on that Yamaha keyboard, it just opened my mind to not only the world of music, but just the world of possibility. And you totally understand when you're dealing with music, there's literally no limitations at all.
Right. Yep.
And so to be able to play the piano or to make an instrumental track where I'm putting down the percussions and the strings and the horns, there's literally so much you can do on that keyboard. It's behind me actually. And yeah, literally when I need to get away and unplug, that Yamaha Motif is the perfect remedy.
What brings you the most joy about what you do?
And I think that what brings me a lot of joy is knowing that I have been fortunate enough to achieve a lot in life, and knowing that no one would have ever imagined it. And no one's like, unless you know me, if you were to just see me walking around in the city, the average person would just say, oh, it's a blind guy. And they would have no idea the things that I've done in life. So to have done those things, and for people to still be so, for lack of a better term, so small-minded, is like all the joy in the world for me.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast. My name is Dan Krikorian. Please make sure to subscribe and check us out on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. And until next time, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, keep making that beautiful work. We'll see you soon.